I just want to add one more thing because this isn't about hating men. I don't hate men. I hate the system that teaches men that this is how they're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
And dehumanizes them and then dehumanizes us by saying we're not as important as the men. We have a system that teaches people to be this way and it harms us all. And until we're all willing to stand up and say no more, it's going to keep happening. Violent men in power doing violent things to the world.
Yeah.
We're tired of the rules, tired of the shame, tired of pretending it's all the same. We're tired of the hustle that cuts us in two. We're tired, but we're stronger. We're breaking on through. We're tired as fuck, but we won't back down. We're tired as fuck, still owning this town.
Welcome back in to Tired as Fuck. And we are especially tired as fuck about some real things today. Today, we are specifically going to be talking about, trigger warning for everyone listening, watching, we're going to be talking about violent men running everything. Now, if you have lived in the world, you know that this is a thing that happens everywhere. So when I say trigger warning, it's kind of loose triggering because if you wake up every day, you should be triggered by the violence that has been and continues, has always been around, of the violence of men. Now, this is not just male bashing. This is real statistical information that we'll be talking about today. But we just want to really get into why we all seem so surprised every single time these institutions that are run, created by men, how we're surprised every time violence continues to come up, whether it's in institutions, whether it's in corporations or organizations, or even in our own personal lives. So we're gonna, I think, start with just kind of figuring out. There's a lot going on in the world right now. And so I just want to have a little temperature check with all the ladies, because I know we're all a little riled up about different things happening in the world and these institutions run by these crazy men. So I just want to have a little check in with everybody and how are we feeling? How are we feeling right now? Let's kind of start there about the chaos. Let's start with Sandra. Sandra looks ready to talk about it. Yeah.
In case you're wondering why we've gone from tired to tired as fuck, I brought part of a speech that was made in 1983 by a second wave feminist named Andrea Dworkin at a men's conference. So, 1983, what is that? That's 43 years ago?
The year before I was born, because I like to point out that I'm the baby. I'm the baby.
She talks about violence, right? She talks about the violence, and she actually says, I'm going to read a couple of things here. She says, I've watched the men's movement for many years. I'm close with some of the people who have participated in it. I can't come here as a friend, even though I might very much want to. What I would like to do is scream. And in that scream, I would have the screams of the raped and the sobs of the battered, and even worse, in the center of that scream, I would have the deafening sound of women's silence, that silence into which we are born because we are women and in which most of us die. She said this 40 some odd years ago, and she talked about violence against women. And she said, it's happening for a simple reason. There's nothing complex and difficult about the reason. Men are doing it because of the kind of power that men have over women. That power is real, concrete, exercised from one body to another body, exercised by someone who feels he has a right to exercise it, exercised in public and exercised in private. It is the sum and substance of women's oppression. And this violence, by the way, now I'm done quoting, this violence isn't just physical violence. It's sexual violence. It is violence through words. It is the kind of fucking passive violence that we see men say, like, well, you know, are women ruining the workplace? Or, you know, or like, should we be doing something about these poor dudes who can't find women to sleep with? All of these things are also violence against women. And do not think that removing women's rights like the right to abortion, is anything less than violence against, I would say in this case, not just women, but anyone who has a uterus.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not just women, right? Like we're talking about women because we care about women and we are women. So spoiler, that's going to be a big topic of focus. But it's also just that when we talked about the danger of the patriarchal structure a couple episodes, right, ago, about how that doesn't just harm women. That structure harms everybody. That harms men too. It's not just, right, like we're pitting the left and the right against each other. Sometimes we like to pit men and women against each other, and there's no love lost for me among men at all. But it is the people in power that I have the most disgust for, and I prefer to punch up. And so I'm looking at the violent men in power that love the violence. They enjoy the violence. They're entitled to it. And they love to perpetrate it against women, but they also love to perpetrate it against people of color, queer people, right? Like it's not just women. They get off on it. They're sadists. I think that's the thing that I want to call out, because all of this is coming up for me, especially why I was like, this is one of the topics we have to cover is violent men in power, because I watched Renee Good get murdered yesterday. I have to say it out loud, and I have to say her name out loud. She was a mom. She was 37 years old. She was in front of her house. I just saw reporting that was her house. She was in front of her own house in her own neighborhood. So like, I don't care what the justification is. That was murder. We watched a state-sanctioned execution of a citizen, and it fucked with me. I mean, it's not the first. ICE has executed other people. She's not the first one they killed. But it was so blatant, on camera, in daylight, from one of the most privileged groups. This is why, like, white women need to wake up. You're not privileged. You just had proximity to power, right? They're coming for all of us, and we should all be ready. And so, like, that was the catalyst for me, and that's where I'm coming from today, of like, yo, they like this. They loved watching it. They don't have any remorse. They're here for this. This is what they wanted.
No.
Yeah.
And
I just want to throw this in real quick, Mel. Representative Andy Ogles recently said, the United States of America is the dominant predator across all landscapes because of President Trump. The dominant predator. Why is a government? Why is a country a predator? So I hear a lot of people will say, oh, you're misunderstanding. You don't understand. They're not really celebrating violence. That is the absolute celebration of violence.
Yeah. And I would say not because of Donald Trump. And listen, I am no defender of Donald Trump whatsoever. Okay. But this is not a new scenario that he's created, right? He's been much more vocal and unapologetic about it, but this has been since the beginning of this country, as we're talking about this country specifically, that it was founded on the premise of a bunch of powerful white men who didn't want to not be in power anymore. They wanted to create their own structure where they got to be the ones to make the rules.
Impose those on others.
Right. And impose those, and literally made a framework, aka our Constitution, that told everyone who were the important people, who were the ones who deserve to have power and say. So the fact that Donald Trump has taken the ball and is running with it, and personally, I think because there are mental health issues that they are just refusing to talk about, honestly, I don't understand why nobody's saying like, hey guys, clearly there's something wrong with this guy, right? But this country was founded as a power play for, again, men who wanted more power than they could have under the king. And so if we start all the way back when, and how things were created initially, how this country was created initially, how it was ripped away from people who are already here, already established, already living, their lives, and the fact that they came in violently to steal land and claim it as their own. This isn't a new phenomenon, right? This is what the premise of this country is, and why people currently in government don't want us talking about it, right? Want to ban all the books to talk about the history of this country.
We are the bad
Because
guys.
that is
Like,
the reality that
we
we're
are
not
the
talking about
villains.
enough.
Yeah. But we were raised on American exceptionalism, right? Like, we were propagandized in school. We didn't learn real
Manifest
history.
destiny.
We were raised on that shit, right? And so it's like, what I need everybody to come to terms with is we are the OG bad guy. We are the OG bad guy.
Yeah, something that a lot of people don't know is that Nazi Germany actually sent people to the United States to learn about our Jim Crow laws, because that's what they used to base their laws on, that then made Jews into the pariah of the...
To go back to Mel's point, all of that, they looked to the U.S. as an
That's what I'm
example
saying.
from what we did to the Native Americans. I'm not even talking about just like, you exterminated a whole people and took the thing you wanted. We like that. You're strong.
Yeah.
So the fact that we continue to be surprised as these things happen, and again, part of it is we don't talk about our history in this country, which is so odd. I mean, when I talk to people that live in other countries, were raised in other countries, there is a lot of conversation about their history.
Germany
both
talks
the
about
things to
their
be,
history.
yeah, both the things to be proud of and the terrible shit that happened that they're trying to make amends for, or at least acknowledging. But this country is like, nope, we are just going to keep pushing forward like nothing. There's nothing to see here, right?
But we are actually idolizing that past. We have a government of people who are idolizing that past. Do not think the people who are saying that we should be looking at what the original writers of the Constitution intended. Those people are basically saying we want laws and regulations and structure the way it was in 1776, when women had no rights, when anyone whose skin was not white was marked for death or for genocide or for literal exploitation of their bodies and slavery. This is what they're saying. They're holding up as the ideal that they want to get back to. And when we say this is not okay, this is not even remotely okay, we still get men in power saying things like, but what about the guys? They're lonely. They're sad.
And obviously, men are also affected by this violence.
Yes.
So it isn't, and we talked about this before when we had that conversation about the patriarchy. It isn't just that women are being subjugated and all men are created equally and treated equally. Absolutely not. I mean, this woman that was killed, she was killed less than half a mile from where George Floyd was killed 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, to your point, Sandra, yeah, I mean, obviously, Black people, Black men, especially in that scenario with George Floyd, are not the ones seen to have any power or validation. And so it's not a big deal if we eliminate them, if we kill them, because whatever, it's just a Black guy. Who's he? He's nobody important, right? Who is this woman? Oh, she's a mom. She was outside doing her volunteer work of watching for ICE for her community. So she could tell people in her community when ICE was coming and to protect themselves. That's what she was outside doing when all of this happened.
You just said something that triggered something in me that's very visceral, which is that, like, she was out there trying to protect her community. And what is community? What is government? What is living with others for? If not to protect each other? Like, I don't understand. I feel like the social contract has been completely shattered at this point. I think that's why I'm like grieving so hard, because it's like, and again, other groups, marginalized groups, knew this and probably felt way earlier that the social contract had been shattered once they experienced what they did. But it's like, yes, to your point, it's what I hate that it is this way. But again, once the violence reaches a more privileged group, people pay more attention to it. It's just the reality.
No, exactly.
But it is just wild to me, because I'm like, it just feels like we've completely walked away from the social contract, any sense of global order. And it's like, women have to realize, like, not only is like corporate America not going to protect us, but they're feeding women to the wood chipper first out of corporate America. Not only this government not going, we're actively being held hostage by a terrorist government in the United States as women. I feel like a hostage.
And this is not new, right? This, again, going back to that speech in 1983, she says, I mean, there is a relationship between the way in which women are raped and your socialization to rape and the war machine that grinds you up and spits you out. So, I mean, there is like everything that is going on. That violence is something that impacts every single one of us. And she says, you damn well better believe that you're involved in this tragedy and that it's your tragedy too, because you're turned into little soldier boys from the day you were born, and everything that you learn about how to avoid the humanity of women becomes part of the militarism of the country in which you live and the world in which you live. And we are now bringing it to other places in the world as if we have the right to do so. And we're demanding it. These men at the top are basically mob bossing their way around the world, telling Greenland they better watch out, telling Mexico and Cuba, you better watch out, you better fall into line. And also, violence is really tied to economics.
Obviously.
Yeah.
We are the producers more than anyone of war machines, right? Of things related to war. That's why historically Congress has never had a problem creating larger and larger defense budgets. That budget is never questioned, is never cut. Whenever there is war happening, secretly, all the billionaires, all the people who have money in the stock market are always a little excited because their bottom line is going up because there is money to be made in war. And again, that's when we talk about those institutions. Yeah, we can talk big scale and foundation, but think about things like ICE, right? The fact that we need this larger now ICE department where they are recruiting like the most basic ass people to come in, like zero qualifications,
zero
as
training.
long as you're willing to show up and do what we say and not ask any questions and wear your little mask, then come on in. We're going to pay you a bunch of money because Congress is going to continue to increase this budget. We're going to pay you a ridiculous amount of money to be violent towards your fellow American citizens.
And
right?
I want to take a minute to say something here. Any American that chooses to work for ICE, that chooses to go be part of this regime, right? I don't care how much they're paying you. I don't care what other limited options you had. I think you deserve to be a pariah. I think you deserve to be shamed and booed and never serviced at any public institution ever. I don't think you should be, I think you should be kicked out of restaurants. I think you should be booed. No woman will ever sleep with you. We will tell everybody. We will find you and we will make sure you never get laid ever again because fuck you. And there's no excuse for it. And they are going out recruiting people like this, these fucking mouth breather, basement dweller, tiny dick trolls who love video game violence and fucking hating on women.
Yeah. Tell us how you really feel, Courtney.
I was going to say exactly that, Mel. People, this has been coming for 40 some odd years. She brings up, and again, I'm just looking at this one speech. And she says, there's a cartoon I saw that brought it all together nicely. It was a big picture of Ronald Reagan as a cowboy with a big hat and a gun. Y'all remember Ronald Reagan? And it said, a gun in every holster, a pregnant woman in every home, make America a man again. In 83, we're still fighting this battle. If you wonder why women are tired, if you wonder why people who are not white men are tired, it's because we have been fighting this battle for so long, and we are seeing us move not just backward, but rapidly.
Let's be clear. I mean, I appreciate the fact that she was able to get into this men's organization and have this conversation. But we've been talking about this long before the 80s, right? There have been
absolutely
women's advocates over the years forever who have been trying to instill some information, at least, to these men's groups, to men in general, to have these conversations. But obviously getting the platform is always the challenge, and why now it's so important with all of these. We talked last episode, I think, about this idea of the free press and having spaces where people can actually share and not be censored. That's why it's so important to find these voices, especially of women who are sharing their stories, telling the realities of what is happening, and we have to protect them. We have to keep them from being shut down. And same thing, if we kind of move from the idea of ICE and institutions, and obviously that trickles, I can't even say trickles down because police departments were in place before ICE existed, happens obviously in police departments and any kind of militarized functions. The fact that obviously we've had a military forever that is always stationed around the world waiting for things to happen. The fact that we just, stole the president of Venezuela.
Kidnapped. Let's just say kidnapped. We kidnapped
him and
we
brought him
we
here.
violently beat his wife.
But left the regime. She's no saint, by the way. I don't lose
still
tears
beat
over
her.
that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, we didn't do, none of that was for any of the good of Venezuela. None of that was to actually this whole bullshit of like, oh, you're defending Maduro. No, he's a piece of shit. So's his wife. But guess what? They left the rest of that regime in power. They left his vice president and the whole fucking regime there. They're just out there to steal oil.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's just oil, but absolutely. Because again, the reality is Trump wants to keep giving you excuses. Initially, it was about the fentanyl. The fentanyl is coming from Venezuela. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Oh, it must be cocaine. Oh, it's not the cocaine. Obviously, you don't have a problem with cocaine because you just pardoned the president from Bolivia or whatever who was convicted of bringing in 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S.
Yeah.
So it's not cocaine. There's so many ridiculous things. And now this whole oil, and we're going to run the country, and okay, but you don't have any plan in place. I was just watching Rachel Maddow on Monday, who I adore. I'm like such a super fan of Rachel Maddow. And so if you ever hear this, Rachel Maddow, I am your super fan. Yeah.
We're listening, Rachel.
Right. Call me, girl. But, she was talking about all of these like ridiculous assumptions that were being made, and the fact that the oil in Venezuela isn't, her description was, it's not in a barrel. They're not in barrels sitting on shelves that you can just go in there, stick somebody up and put them on the back of your truck and bring them to America. The oil's still in the ground, and there is not infrastructure in place to get this oil out. And all of the oil CEOs have already said, like, no, he has not talked to us about coming in and doing anything. And they are unwilling to spend billions of dollars and spend years and years and decades to create infrastructure in Venezuela that they're going to have to pay for and do all this work. It's not about the oil. He likes to say it's about the oil. Like he likes to say it's about the drugs. Right. But it's not about that either. Coincidentally, all of these crazy things keep happening when the one thing to bring this back full circle to violent men and violence specifically against women is this Department of Justice is still refusing to turn over 99% at this point was their own calculations. 99% of the documents from the Epstein files still have not been released, despite the fact that there is a congressional mandate that they were supposed to be in before Christmas.
Totally.
Right. So every day there is a new thing to focus our attention away from the violence that was committed by men against women, young women, girls.
Children.
Yeah, let's be clear. Yeah.
We are still every day trying to be, oh, look over here. Look at this shiny object over here. Be mad about this other thing over here. Every day there's another thing happening except for what is supposed to be happening. Right?
I mean, they made him
how long, at what point are we we being Congress, honestly, because we all can just be mad, but at what point is Congress, who's the only one that can do anything, actually going to start holding this administration accountable for specifically, I mean, anything, but specifically the violence against these women who have been waiting half their lives at this point for some
More.
kind of acknowledgement.
Yeah, more than half their lives. I'm just going to be really clear here. As someone who was a victim of rape when I was 16, a man who at the time he groomed me, he brought me to his place in a way, he drugged me and he raped me. And this is somebody who then moved on to high ranks in the Navy. Because anything that I said, everything that I said was dismissed as me being the problem because I went home alone with him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
we don't believe women.
We don't believe women. We don't believe that this is something that has had an
not.
impact on me for my entire life, that it has
Sure.
transformed me. And I'd only bring that up on me is because I know the impact of it. I know and I understand the impact very, very clearly.
No,
Right. And I
absolutely.
guarantee you that you, whoever you are, man, woman, somewhere in between, know a woman who has been through this. And if they have not been out and out raped, had sexual violence committed against them, they certainly have had people suggesting it to them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And can I also just say, not to make this like an emotional confessional moment here, because that's not my vibe today. I'm still in anger mode. But I, for years, was like, yeah, well, I'm so glad I've never been raped. Like, I made some dumb decisions in college. No, I fought with years with my therapist. I'm like, that's not rape. That was my fault. We have been propagandized to blame ourselves for our own rape,
Absolutely.
for our own assault.
Yeah.
We've been trained to internalize that shame and be like, oh, well, I chose to do that, or I chose to be in that position, or I chose to be there, or I chose to pass out. So then whatever they did, I must have deserved.
I think about like the jokes that I used to hear when I was in elementary school and junior high. I don't know if you ever heard this one. What is the mating call of a redhead? I'm so drunk.
I've never.
No.
Yeah, I heard that in middle school and high school. Yeah, it's really awful.
Normalized for women because, and I have to point this out as Mel was talking, because thank you, Mel, for bringing us your things that have to connect. But when you talk about, okay, I was like, as you were talking, like, they made a movie about this. It was called Wag the Dog. We literally watched a movie about what happened last week, right? Like, there was sex crimes, so we started a war. That's, boop, it's pretty simple, right? Like, that is what happened here. And it's also just simpler. It is anger, violence, and impotence. That's like a lot of what is just like powering this. And when you look at why Congress doesn't act and why Republicans especially, I mean, a lot of Democrats aren't much better, but Republicans especially are so spineless and pathetic and complicit and evil and just worthless, is because a lot of them come from religion and come from like deeply, I have to call out Christian nationalism and evangelical Christians, because they are totally okay with rape and sexual violence. They condone it. They're cool with it. They like it. They want to lower the age of consent. They want to be able to marry children. It is part of their culture. They love it. We don't want to hold them accountable because we want to elevate that. We think it's cool.
Let's not also forget that this was the group of people who for decades were claiming that the other side was running a pedophile ring.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know how
if you ever want to know the exact definition of that displaced feelings, that is exactly it. I mean, why do you think that every time there is a Republican convention, we find that activity on the gay apps goes up? Right? Because the people hate themselves enough.
Grindr shuts down every time they come to a city near them.
Yeah.
It's like none of them are getting laid. You're all, by the way, trans porn is like hot spots in all the reddest counties. right? Like, you guys are all so fucking, you're losers. You're pathetic fucking losers. I hope you know we laugh at you. We're not, like, the state-sponsored violence is fucking scary, but you fucking basement dwellers, we are not afraid of you. We are laughing at you. You're pathetic, and your dicks are going to shrivel off before you ever experience what an actual orgasm feels like from anyone else's hand but yours.
And to take this to like a more, not as it's definitely still as angry, but maybe a more, I don't know, not palatable. I don't know what the word is.
Less
To take this
unhinged.
to another way of saying this is we have given these men in power ample opportunity to prove their humanity, and they continue to prove otherwise. And basically, every time we give a man a chance to do this and they exploit and abuse instead, we further the patriarchy, right? We further damage ourselves, and we further continue to create a world in which violence, sexual violence, and power are going to be the controls. And that will never be good for the majority.
No.
Never.
No.
And the fact that we have people in power who have convinced some of the have-nots that they should be supporting this, breaks my heart.
It breaks mine too, but what a laugh.
Well, at this point, what I want to do is like, I can no longer assume that because someone is human that they have humanity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I cannot assume that. I have to assume that person on the other side who happens to be, male identified in some way or another, has violence on his mind.
Yeah.
Until he proves otherwise. I have to, for my own protection and for my own sense of well-being. You remember the whole thing about the bear?
Right.
Yeah.
Choosing the bear?
Right.
And like some guy, I remember, posted like his wife asked him, how would you feel about our 12-year-old?
Right.
Which would you prefer? And him having to realize that he would prefer the bear.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't realize the fact that he paused for so long and was like, wow, yeah, I guess I never thought about it that way. Like, you could see the effect that it had on him thinking about it from that perspective. And how lovely for him and for most men that they don't have to think about that, and that they have to put in place their daughters or their mother or someone close to them to even consider what happens to women on a daily basis.
Right.
That's the power of privilege, though.
Absolutely.
All the people out there that say, oh, I don't care about politics, I don't keep up with politics. That is the power of privilege. You don't have to worry about your son dying, because he happened to be carrying a violin case, or your daughter, getting, killed on the street.
Well, yeah, and it's like, you don't even think about all these little things because you don't have to. Like, every girl grew up learning you carry keys between your fingers when you walk to your car at night. If you're going to go for a run, you don't wear a ponytail. You're easier to snatch that way. We live our lives in defense mode from men who want to do us harm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Always. 24/7. Oftentimes even in our own homes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Imagine being a heterosexual woman for a moment and knowing that the people that you want to date are also your biggest predators.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And weeding through that, right? I mean, I spent a good portion of my life dating men and being around. I mean, I'm still around men all the time. And even now, I can't tell you a time that I have been outside of my house interacting in a group where there was men, where in some, variation, there's flirting and where some man doesn't say something inappropriate, do something inappropriate, do something where if I gave an inch, he would try to take a mile. I mean, even in conversation of like, yeah, I hear ya, I'm married and I'm a lesbian. That is not a deterrent to any man I have ever said that to.
Ooh, that's hot.
Right. That is fuel for the inappropriateness.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that my entire life has been spent having to realize that, because I'm a super friendly person, I love people, and I'm not going to not show up as me because men especially can't handle the fact that a woman can actually be nice to them and not want to screw them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so whatever, a lot of men walk away with their feelings hurt because
they're telling on themselves. They're telling on
Yeah.
themselves, right? Because you're telling me the only time you're ever nice to somebody is if
Yeah.
you want to fuck them.
Yeah.
Ew.
I had this conversation over Thanksgiving, and someone was saying, I was talking about like going out and how, you know, I tell women all the time, men are going to be out there, and if you're at a bar somewhere, like, men are happy to have a woman even have a conversation with them. So when I go out, I don't pay for drinks because again, I'm a friendly person.
Why would you?
I can, but I'm a
Wow.
beautiful, intelligent woman. And so I tell women all the time, like, if I'm out and I'm having a conversation or whatever, like, it has never been an issue with someone wanting to buy me a drink. I'm very clear that there is not any reciprocity happening there. And if you don't understand that, that's a you problem, because I'm never going to pretend otherwise. But someone actually said to me, my former son-in-law actually said, like, you know what they want. No, I don't. And it's not my job to guess. But if I tell you what you're not going to get, then you got to believe me. If you choose not to, that's on you. And so that's all part of, for me, this idea that, yes, do I recognize men are always on the prowl? Absolutely. Do I make that my problem in how I socialize? Absolutely not.
That's
Absolutely not. I
interesting because
refuse to.
I've gone such the opposite direction. I don't let anybody, man or woman, buy me a drink that I am not like if I am not standing right there and
Well, no,
seeing the
they're not
drink being
giving me
made.
a random drink. No, absolutely
Yeah.
not. But if I'm standing
No.
at the bar having a conversation, I'm getting my
She's
drink
saying
from
she'll
the
let them
bartenders.
finance her tab.
Right. Yeah, this is about
See,
the
but I
tab.
won't
No, I
do
am
that
absolutely not
either.
accepting a drink from anyone physically.
Yeah.
No.
Listen, it comes down to, like, they want what they can't have. They want to claim and dominate and just have. They just like to take. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
guess
that's
that
just a
just
man
go
thing.
back
Plenty of women
to
have bought me drinks too. Like I'm not biased in that way. But it's just one of those things where it's like, and I'm not asking people for drinks. Like, I'm not walking around with my cup out like, hey, my drink's empty. Somebody want to buy me a drink? But that's just how it works. And there are just so many amazing women that I know that get into this mode of like, I got to be out here and be this independent, and I'm not going to open myself up and because now I owe you something. No, I don't owe you shit. I gave you conversation. You gave me a drink. Fair exchange. Win-win.
And that's why I want to bring this loop this back to, we really are talking about people in power who have the ability to exploit here, because everybody else loses.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Everybody else loses. Men who think about interactions with women as transactional lose, right? And unfortunately, they're taught that. Right. So they don't ever get to have true relationships with people, not just with women, but with their friends. How many times have you seen a man actually open up in any way? Because they're not allowed to, because the transactional capitalist culture that we live in says that there has to be, a gain in this process.
What's also
And
really
that is so dehumanizing.
It totally is. And it's also, like you said, it's very in line with kind of this like late stage capitalist moment that we're all going through. Mel said something earlier. I know we are going to wrap up here, but I just want to connect something. When you said your son-in-law said, like, or your former son-in-law said, you know what they want. You know what it's your responsibility to make sure they're not feeling bamboozled or whatever. Right. Like, that's how I read that. And I'm like, ooh, I'm having like PTSD to so many of my performance reviews in corporate America about like, your face made this man uncomfortable in a meeting. You weren't smiling enough. Your tone made Bob feel away. And you need to not make Bob feel away. Your responsibility is to make Bob's feelings okay. I'm like,
And
are
yet-
you high?
And yet at the same time, they say, I'm not responsible for your feelings about my behavior.
Yeah, because when I snap back and say, are you fucking hot? I don't think I said it quite like that, but probably not that much different. And the response is, you are a volatile, emotional woman. And I'm like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a real life situation in which this happened. I had a boss come out of my office and he was telling me about, he'd seen this email that I'd sent to this guy and he's a great guy. You know, he's seen this guy like get in the CEO's face and he appreciates that kind of tenacity and all of that. But that's the kind of guy he is. And my email was just a little too forward. And if I really want to get a guy like that to do something, I need to look at treating him with more kindness. And like, as he was going, I just blurted out. It just came out of my face. I didn't get a chance to stop it. I said, wow, that's misogynist.
Mm-hmm.
And he froze and walked back into his office. And I thought for sure I was going to get fired. And here's the thing. I'm going to give this guy credit where credit is due. We disagree on almost everything politically and everything else. But 10 minutes later, he came out of his office and he said in front of everybody that he had said that in front of, Sandra, you're right. That was misogynist. I'm sorry. And when you feel ready, I'd like to talk about how I can be better.
Nice.
So don't tell me men can't do it. They
it's
can.
possible. It's a choice. It's
Absolutely.
a choice.
No,
Yes.
absolutely. Yes. So, in our next episode, we're going to be talking about kind of these consequences that happen, and when these men can't get what they want, when they feel like someone's trying to strip away this power. We'll talk about that a little bit more in that episode. But I just think it's really important before we get to our last fucks for the week that we recognize, for everyone who's listening and living in this crazy world, it isn't just about hating men. It's about understanding where we are and what realities are. And, we had some statistics that we had looked at earlier before we started filming, and 90% of homicides globally, 90% of homicides globally are committed by men. That's not an accident, right? We have numbers, and I would question these numbers for reporting purposes, but 30% of women worldwide have experienced physical or sexual violence. Now, the problem with any of those types of numbers is that you then have to look at the percentage of women who actually report physical and sexual violence and then combine those numbers together, because I will guarantee you that number is at least twice that, if not more.
It's underreported.
But the fact that women are also, and we all know this, disproportionately victimized, killed in domestic family situations. Most women are killed by people that they know, people that are closest to them. And so it's important that we talk about these things, not just to be angry about it, but to understand the realities and to prepare yourself, and not to walk around scared. Absolutely. Because I refuse to do that, but be aware, right? And talk about it, be vocal about it, find people to support who are going through these things. Don't just sit around and be angry about it. Find ways to do something if you can, if you feel safe to. And so I just wanted to mention those things. Sandra?
Yeah, and before we jump into the last fucks, I just want to add one more thing, because this isn't about hating men. I don't hate men.
No.
I hate the system that teaches men that this is how they're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
And dehumanizes them, and then dehumanizes us by saying we're not as important as the men.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
and
absolutely.
This is just talking about the gender issue. We're not talking about race. We're not talking about class. We're not talking about any of this. We have a system that teaches people to be this way, and it harms us all. And until we're all willing to stand up and say no more, it's going to keep happening. And we're going to have people, we're going to have violent men in power doing violent things to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. All right, so let's move on. Let's wrap this all up in a little bow. If there are some positive things any of us can think of this week Some days it's harder than others, y'all. Some days it's harder than others. So yeah, Courtney, let's hear your last fuck.
Because I've been particularly mean.
Come closer to the mic, Courtney.
Been particularly mean to the men this week, and I have been, you were both like, it's not about hating men, and I'm like, good, they have to counterbalance, because some of the things I say sound like it's about hating men, and it's not. But I really hate what's coming out of men right now, and I have a lot of anger at the system, which is totally justified. On that note, my last fuck is for my wonderful husband, who is a perfect example of how you cannot be raised with these emotional tools or the worldview that your wife agrees. He is not a hardcore left feminist like me. No, he is not. But he is a perfect example of how it is not about hating men. It is about hating the system. And when a man brings that real strength and masculinity to the table, it is so fucking hot and so fucking and that is my last fuck this week. It's for how hot that kind of masculinity is. Okay? That's my last fuck.
That is awesome.
She has to leave it right there, because then we'd have to put like an extra X rating on the show.
Yeah.
How about you, Sandra? What, you got a last fuck this week?
I do.
Let's hear it.
All of my last fuck is for all of those men who are offering us another way of being. For those that are listening to this, you can't see it, but I'm wearing a cameo necklace. This is quite literally Stan Lee on the necklace. So I'm wearing a Stan Lee cameo. Stan Lee was a guy who tried to create stories about ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances with extraordinary chances to transform the world, and how they are human anyway. I love this about him, and I love something that I love about comics and have loved about comics for so very long is that they are so progressive. They really look at issues very early, and they're not ashamed of punching Nazis, and they're not ashamed of calling out sexism, and they are not ashamed of putting our own racist and genocidal impulses front page and center as part of the stories that they're being told. So that is actually, I guess that is it. For all those peoples, all the creative men out there that have given us a different way of looking at being, thank you.
R.I.P. Stan Lee. Hey, I love
Mhm.
it. Let's see. I don't have a man to give my last fuck to. I'm going to give the last fuck to me, to myself. I have been working diligently on creating this new structure for my business. And I won't go into it in too much detail, because at some point I'll won't be able to shut up about it. But I am creating, as we talk about community, I am creating a sanctuary space, a spiritual sanctuary. So all the work that I have been doing is all going to fall under this beautiful umbrella that makes more sense for people to understand the work that I do. But it's the one piece I've been missing of sustainably bringing community together into safe space. And so I'm really excited that I'm just about finished putting the finishing touches on it. By the time you hear this, it should be up and running. But I am creating this shine sanctuary that is going to be for the people to just have space together to learn about what makes you amazing and wonderful, and how to do that more, and be in a space with people who want to do the same thing. So I'm giving my last fuck to May.
Yay! I can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
And we will we will be live. Wait. I'm going to hawk your shit. Stop. By the time this show is live, this will be live. So we will have a link in the show notes. So yes, you should follow Tired as Fuck. You should go find us on all the platforms and like it. I don't like begging, but I'm a beg. Come on, give me a like, give me a share. We need them for the algorithm. And
she's
then
shaking her
we're going to
boobs.
put it in the show. I'm shaking my boobs. You just can't see it. And then we're going to put in the show notes Mel's Shine Sanctuary, so that when this episode drops, you can go check out what she's talking about and see a little bit more about that detail.
Yay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can do that. So yes, Courtney kind of stole my line. I just want to remind everybody to make sure to like and follow us where you're listening right now, where you're watching right now, so that you don't miss all of the good conversations that we're having. And don't forget that we definitely want to hear from you. Send us questions, send us comments. If this resonated with you, please feel free to share that with us. We'd love hearing from you. And if you have ideas of things that you're tired as fuck about that you want us to talk about, send us that as well. So that's it for today. Thank you, ladies, for being amazing as always. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
We're tired as fuck, but we won't back down. We're tired as fuck, still owning this town. We're tired as fuck, together we ride. We're tired as fuck, fire in our eyes. We're tired but stronger, our voices collide. We're tired as fuck with the fire inside.